This is the Transcend in Life podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson, taking you from fear to freedom.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Transcend in Life. I'm really excited to interview this gentleman today. Dick Gould is a retired tennis coach and coached the tennis teams at Stanford University for 38 years. His Stanford men's tennis teams won 17 NCAA Team Championships, 10 NCAA Singles Championships, and 50 of his players won All-American honors. He promoted indoor intercollegiate tennis matches, drawing the largest college crowds in history, designed the first electronic intercollegiate scoreboard, has hosted the U.S. Junior Davis Cup and USTA National Junior Training Camps, conceived and directed the first ever combined men and women's NCAA championships. Dick received the Positive Coaching Alliance Lifetime Achievement Award, Team USA Coaching Legend Award. He's happily married to his wife, Ann, and loves spending time with his five children, 17 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. My goodness, Dick, what a legacy. How are you?
Well, I'm an old man. I've lived a long time. Something better happened all that time, right?
Well, you've influenced so many people, not just in the tennis community, but those just in around the world, really. But 17 national team championships. That's remarkable. That is,
I never hit a ball. The darndest thing.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But you sure coached a lot of those kids to hit the ball, not only well, but I mean, extremely well. And 50 All-Americans. That's just, I mean, that talks to some fantastic recruiting for sure, but there has to be a philosophy and a winning one that you brought to the table.
I just did my thing and didn't think too much about it. And we had won, my guys had won about 10 championships. And I had a good friend who started several of the Silicon Valley companies, and he played baseball at UCLA, is in the Hall of Fame down there. And he asked me one day, he said, Dick, how do you win so much? How do your teams win so much? And I said, I don't know, Jack, I get the best players. And he looked at me, he said, you know, I've been in business, I'm too competitive, I've been around sport too long to know it's that simple. And I did have the best players, very frankly, I thought, and had a lot of confidence in them, but there was more to it. And then I got about the year I retired, I think it was, one of the Baylor coach came up to me and said, Coach, how many times have you been in the finals of the team championship? I said, I don't know. And I went back and looked, and we've been in the finals, I think, and won it all but 2 times that we got there. And those were, one was, I remember them very clearly, one was a very close 5-4 match loss to UCLA, which I made a bad call in, where I had my player ask him to serve the ball, and we paid the price for the championship. Another was USC, a match against USC, 4-3 in those days, different scoring system. So about 10 years apart, but we did really well. And yet I couldn't quantify any special reason why, other than the fact we had really good players, and we did. So this is a great segue. I thought, you know, I'm going to ask my guys what they thought and see what, and I have 200 of them who are still alive. And in the older days, we had a JV team too. So there's, it's a little bit top heavy at the bottom, but they span, 40 years of playing. And then for 34 of those years, everyone had won at least one championship ring. So I asked them 20 really intense questions. Do we have a culture? Define it. How do you deal with egos? How did we deal with egos in a sport like mine or anywhere when someone's successful? Ego is a great ally to have to a point, but also can be a tremendous liability. What's the relevance of trust? Did you feel relevant? And these things they were essay answers, not true, false. It took about, I would imagine, about 2 hours to answer these things, or 4 hours even, with good thought. I had 162 responses.
Wow.
And I could have sent another follow-up email and probably got 20 more, guys just busy at the time or something like that. And so that's being put, I've done what I can do with book form. It's at a writer right now, and it's going to be really interesting. I love what he's done, and it's really based on what the players, most management books and leadership books are Jack Welch saying how he built CEO, or how Joe Small did this. And how I did this. And this is not that. It's not a history of Stanford tennis. It's not a history of tennis even. It's not a history of Stanford University. It's from the people being managed, a story of how they felt they were being managed, the good and the bad. And my plea to them is to be brutally, brutally honest. You're not stepping on anyone's toes. And I know these guys well enough. They tell it to my face like it is. And so, and I stayed in touch with all of them. So I knew I was going to get pretty good answers, but I really was overwhelmed by it. So these are now, I've done my part writing. Now I got a guy putting it in legible form and brushing it up. And it's a few months away, maybe even a year, but I think it's going to be really good and answer some of the questions.
Well, to get the insight from those players, and 162, I think you said, out of 200, that is truly remarkable. And that speaks to your character and how much that you have meant to them in their lives. I know my former coaches, but taking 2 to 4 hours, I don't know. Maybe I do it, maybe I don't, from my college coaches, but that really speaks to what you have done. And yes, you may have had some incredible players, but a lot of coaches could say that. You manage egos at 18 to 22 years old. Let's just say it how it is. That's a different time in their life. And you were able to really harness it's fascinating. I cannot wait to read the book.
Well, I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think it's really nice because I have comments to add, of course, and little background things along the way. But it really is full of quotes, and the quotes are all by subject. And I was amazed, very frankly, how big a part trust played. Trust and respect, trust in each other as teammates, trust in the coach trust in them, and what a big thing that was for them. And then you get to things, well, what caused the longevity of success? That was another thing that I think was really significant. Or there's no secret sauce. These guys came up with like 30 different secret sauces, and that was the beauty of the thing. It was just a great exercise, and I think it's going to be a fun read for people.
Well, I'm curious, if I was to walk on as a freshman, and was the experience always the same? Did you have certain expectations of every single player that walked through your doors day one?
Well, not in terms of performance. You don't really know how a guy is going to do under pressure. I recruited most. I had the luxury of recruiting primarily based on performance, what they had done. If they could get academically into Stanford, then that limits it right there. But if they could, they had to be able to compete under pressure pretty well, to even grade-wise, to get into a place like Stanford. I had an advantage there, as an example. These guys, they in tennis, you play a series of tournaments in your section and then nationally, and you get a ranking. And so every year I'd know exactly the number 1, 2, 3, 20, 30, 100 player in the country were in order. And so I recruited on the rankings very heavy, and not so much whether they looked like they had a lot of potential or the prettiest strokes, but who was winning and why. What was in his gut that he was winning for some reason? He might be the worst looking player in the world as far as how he hit the ball went, and different than the mainstream. But the guy found a way to win, found a way to win, and so these guys came in pretty good that way, but then you have to mold them as a team, and you have to work together as a team. And anything you do, your business team, your family team, whatever, and you have to be respectful. You have to trust people. You have to rely on them, be able to rely on them, and vice versa. And yet you have to have fun along the way, because of life as it should be lived. And we did have fun, believe me. And I think I have all the stories in the book. I don't think I left any stories out, so that they told about it, the ones they felt they could tell about.
It's going to be a fun one to read for sure. And I just, the culture, that's the one I'm really curious, because I talk about culture. It's very important in my companies and in my family. And you are a Lifetime Achievement Award for Positive Coaching Alliance. I mean, clearly being positive, and you just have this magnetic personality, like it is positivity. Is that something you are just naturally blessed with, or is that something you work at?
I think I've always been able to find the nice side of things. There was a song, Disney. It's not had some racial overtones, but one of the early Disney movies. called Song of the South. And there was a song in there I just loved. And I forget what animated character sang it, but something like zippity doo dah, zippity yay, my oh my, what a wonderful day, wonderful feeling, everything's going my way type thing. And it just, that song really stuck with me all my life. And, you know, you get up on a rainy morning, if I could sing in the shower, I would. I'd start with that song because it just was, you know, you make each day what it is. And not every day is pretty. We always have challenges and some hardships and some disappointments and some setbacks and whether it be health, family, whatever. But we have to rebound from that. We have to be resilient and you have to not dwell in the past. You can learn from the past, a ton from the past, but you always have to look at tomorrow and the next step you're going to take. And I think that's just the natural, that's kind of natural with me. And I think that was a big thing that came off the positivity was a big aspect in the book.
When you look back on 38 years at Stanford and all the memories and all the amazing accolades and accomplishments, what do you most remember about your time there?
First of all, you remember the players. It's different than just being, I'm a teacher. But when I taught in a classroom in high school, I had 30 kids for an hour, 5 days a week for a semester. And then I never saw them again. And as a professor in college, if I were teaching classes in college, I might see them 2 days a week for an hour, maybe 3 hours in lab, something like that for a semester, maybe two. Well, I had these kids young men from 2.5 hours, 3 hours a day, every day, 5 days a week, for 8 months a year. And I could see them when they were tired. I could see them when they got no sleep. When they had no sleep, they were up partying all night, or they were up studying all night, or whatever. I'd see them when their girlfriend broke up with them, when they had a divorce, the parents got divorced at home, when someone in the family was ill. You see them in all kinds of situations. You see them when they're under great stress, getting their final examinations, and it's just really an interesting time to be going through life with these guys who are, you know, 18 years old, you're away from the house, you know it all. Just like I knew it all when I first started coaching, which I found out in 1 hour I didn't. but you know, to go through life with these guys in that intense relationship is really a pleasure. So you think about the guys and things you went through and the adversity you overcame as an individual or a team, and the ride is what it's all about. It's a journey. It's not. There's a thing I don't know. You're way too young, but there's a columnist wrote a column called Dear Abby.
I know Dear Abby.
Your folks would know about it. And it was a great column. And she printed an article in there one time. And I Lisa would remember, your wife would remember from some of our camps. I'd read it at every camp, the end of the camp. And it was called The Journey. And it was written by a guy named Robert Hastings for the Illinois Baptist. And he talks about being on a train trip going across the country. And you go all the way across the country. And you finally get to the station. And you think when you get there, you know, I retired, that will be it. I just got a new Mercedes, that's going to be it. I just paid off the mortgage this week. Last kid goes to college, that's it. But then it never gets there. It keeps distancing itself from us. And what we experience is more the journey. And it's not really the wins or losses, but it's a journey, the process we go through that makes us who we are. And hopefully my guys came away with a feeling that they respected positivity, they expected trusting other people. When I asked if we had a culture, I didn't try to sell the culture. And I think that's the most important part of leadership. You can't be someone you're not. I was coaching freshman football. I played football only in junior high school. And I was coaching freshman football when I first started teaching high school. And we had a little tackling drill. And you know, at those ages, 14 years old, is a big difference in age and a big difference in size. Everyone's going different, their growth spurts are differently. And I think that really, I think most people don't grow up loving contact. I think you have to learn to enjoy contact and enjoy what the contact accomplished. And that's not everybody. I think some people do just enjoy it, but I think you learn to enjoy it. So we'd have these little tackling drills from fairly close. Nowadays, they probably outlaw contact like that because of what I'm doing now with concussions. But this one kid fell and slipped and fell over to the left, just where this, from 5 yards apart, we couldn't hurt each other. But the whole team standing around slipped and fell to the left. And they did it again, slipped and fell to the right. And here I am thinking I'm going to be Vince Lombardi to be a good football coach. And I have 30 guys standing around. I'm the only coach, no assistants. I have the offense and the defense in this one drill, and these two guys are going at it. Third time he slips and falls on his back, and he's lying there, the long hair coming out from underneath his helmet. He looks up at me, and I'm telling this guy in no uncertain terms, yelling at him every swear word, everything I can think of, with the whole team looking. And finally, I ran out of words. I couldn't think of anything else to say. And he let me vent. And when I got done, he just looked at me, laid there for a second, gave me a really good wave, one finger wave, and said, F.K, you, Mr. Gould. He yelled it out in front of the team as loud as he could. And I was kind of taken back. I hesitated a minute, and then I just started cracking up. And then the team cracked up. And I learned right then and there the most important lesson in my life, and that was, don't try to be someone you're not. You have to learn to be yourself. And if it's not a good version, you try to make it a little bit better, but you're not going to fool anybody or lead anybody if you're trying to be a leader. If you have to set the example, and you have to do it by whom you are. And that was a really important lesson for me. Thank gosh I learned that early.
Yeah, no question. And your players benefited from that moment. Don't be someone you're not. And clearly you hollering at a kid and swearing at him, that wasn't your style. I'm curious if you had a coaching hero or mentor, as you are to many people now today. So Dick Gould is now that guy that people are like, I want the legacy like he did as a coach. Did you have someone like that when you started into your coaching career?
That's a great question. I had several, actually. I think my first coach, I didn't want to play tennis. I'm a farmer. My dad was a farmer. It was a farming town, an oil town in Southern California. I don't want to go around with little white shorts, for God's sake. My buddies would kill me, laugh at me. I'd never hear the end of it. So my mom said, well, we're going to take a tennis lesson. And I'm about 11 years old, just entering junior high school. So I said, how am I going to take a tennis lesson? What's tennis? And I'll be darned. She said, well, you want to ride your horse this summer? I said, yes. Well, you're going to have a tennis lesson. So I was stuck. I had to have one. And I go to this court. In those days, this was a private lesson. And the lesson before me, these twin gals are there. I'm 11. They're 14 years old. The hormones in my body just starting, and these little gals are up in the halter top and short hot pants, you call them those days. And I'm thinking, that's kind of interesting. This is not a bad sport. And then, I love sport. But all of a sudden I'm playing a sissy sport, quote, quote. And I get on the court, and the teacher, Harold Chafee, was really a good person. And he made the first ball I hit an exciting experience. And he equated everything I did with another sport. You step into the punch like step into the hit like Rocky Marciano steps in the punch. And his big booming voice of his, Rocky Marciano being the heavyweight champion of the world at the time. You watch the ball like Ralph Kiner watches it come off the pitcher. You watch it come off the racket like Ralph Kiner watches it come off the pitcher's hand. And everything he did was he created a sport. So all of a sudden, between the lesson that preceded mine and the analogies with different sports, I was hooked. And I couldn't wait to hit another ball. And from then on, it was I still played basketball through high school, but it was tennis.
I'll be darned. It's amazing how story and those analogies that really resonated with you to where it wasn't this quote unquote sissy sport, as you said, but it was actually, it's a remarkable game. My boy plays, as you know, and it's just, it's such a beautiful game. I guess that's why they call it the beautiful game.
I think maybe that lesson was the important part of that was that he really made what he taught exciting, which as a teacher was a great lesson for me. And if you think back, the teachers you had, it might not have been your favorite subject, but you didn't mind it because the teacher was able to bring out that subject, make it come alive, make it exciting. And that was a gigantic influence on me as far as a mentor goes, to make what you're teaching exciting. I went to high school. I had another great coach there. He played at USC as one of the top college players in the country. He was lucky. He was my basketball coach in high school and my tennis coach. And he really, he was quiet, but he just went about his job of teaching. He was a teacher's teacher. He didn't get excited. He just taught, and he did a great job of that. And that taught me a little bit more. And I just, you pick up a little bit from everybody. And then actually the last 2 years I was in college, I knew I was going to be a coach. And so as a player, I'd watch how the other coaches we were competing against would do their job and how their players would react to them. So I learned a lot there. When I was coaching, when I got my first teaching jobs and coaching jobs, I would watch how the opposing coaches would work, what they did. I would ask them what they did in a certain situation, always trying to find out what I might be able to incorporate into my personality and into me and what I was doing that might make me better. And I think that's a big thing to remember. You know, we're not, I hope we're not finished products. I think every day, I hope we're all of us, a little bit better in something than we were the day before. And that's how we grow. And that's how we are able to give back more. We get better at what we do and what we've chosen to do. So those are important things to stuff with me.
I love to seek to understand. What I'm getting out of this, and I hope the audience the same thing. We want to pick your brain and know, how did you accomplish what you did? Because there's success leaves clues, and that's clearly what you were able to do. My question, I want to take you back into the living room with parents as you are recruiting these individuals, because you really become a father figure, a parent, a parental figure for at least 4 years for most kids. What was said in that room? Because I deal with, whether it's recruiting, an adult differently, but you were really saying, I have your child and I will make sure that they are taken care of for the next 4 years. Take me back to that room and kind of explain your process.
Well, first of all, I had a great product to sell. Stanford University is just a great product. And when I first started, we had not very much athletic success in any sport. When I was there in football my last year in 1960, we were 0-10. 10 years later, 11 years later, John Ralston, about the year I came, when I just got there, John and I were hired about the same time. He had us in the Rose Bowl for a couple of years. So how I recruited, of course, changed a little bit over the years. But I think mostly I try to get to know that I really like the home visits. I would do it only when necessary. Sometimes it wasn't necessary because it's expensive to travel across country to visit someone for a couple of hours. But I really enjoyed them. And even the parents of players who ended up not being admitted to Stanford or ended up going somewhere else because I couldn't offer them a full scholarship, still remain friends to this day. There's some great recruit stories that I could tell that are really fun. But I really did enjoy getting to know the parents. And the kids are microcosms of their parents in most cases. And so it gave me a little more insight with the kids. And, you talk, I never really talked that much about academics because it kind of stood for itself. And the reputation of Stanford, I talked much more about in tennis and on the tennis court. And I couldn't promise them anything. I think too many times, you're recruiting someone, you could say, oh my God, you're going to be the best player on the best team ever in basketball, football, whatever. You're going to be an All-American. I can get you in the pros and all this kind of stuff. It's not true, and I never took that approach. But I think just having to get to know me and that I wasn't going to be overpowering with them, be demanding on them beyond reason in terms of what I expected them to do. Our practices were shorter than most. We didn't come anywhere near the standard number of minutes we had each day for practice. We never practiced. We could practice 6 days a week. We never practiced more than 5. We always stopped at 5 o'clock sharp, no matter where we were in practice. Our strength and conditioning coach, when we had one, took our guys more than 30 minutes after I got through with them. I was raising hell and just saying, hey, you got to get it better organized. You get these guys out here in 30 minutes. They got other things in life from tennis to attend to. So I think I really enjoyed the home visits and getting to know the parents. It was also interesting to me because in all my years, it's a different world in sport now. And the son's a really good tennis player, and you've seen it on tennis. Uh, it, I never had a parent in my 30 years of coaching. I never had a parent interfere with my coaching. Ask me, how's Johnny doing, or anything ever, ever. And I'm so thankful that a little bit different era, just but I really respected that. They let me do my thing. And I don't know what they talked about with the kids behind my back. I don't want to ask, but they really let me do my thing, and I really respected that.
For those of you not familiar with the tennis world, that is truly remarkable what he just said. Not one parent in 38 years checked in. That I'm having a hard time even understanding that, because I watch so many of these parents and they put so much pressure on these kids. And for you to have, they had that trust in you. That's truly an amazing, that might be as amazing as any of the accolades that you've received. That's truly
That's the story. One of my guys ended up being top 11 in the world. David Wheaton from Minnesota came to Stanford, and I was getting a couple of emails during the summer as folks wanted to know if there was a faculty newsletter and stuff like that, and that's great. I told them how to get it, and they got it. And Dave comes out to school as a freshman and checks in, and his folks, most parents come with their kids, help them bring their stuff out to school, so that's not unusual. And a week later, they're still there. And finally, I asked David, "What's she still there?" He says, "Yeah, they rented a professor's house on campus." I'm going, "Oh my gosh, oh, here we go." And my sister's teaching PE. She got a job teaching tennis on the other side of campus and a for PE class. I go, "Oh, here we go." But I must tell you, one of his parents was at least part of practice every day he was at Stanford. They never spoke to him during practice. They never spoke to me before or after practice, other than just a casual and really warm hello or goodbye. They were at the farthest court away from where David was, always, if they could be. They never made any expression or anything else. I have so much respect for how they handled that. And I pretty foul mouth sometimes, not so much in terms of swearing etiquette, but I just use swear words sometimes. And they're a very Christian family. And first week, I was so uncomfortable. I finally said, "The heck with this! I just got to be myself. They're going to be here all year." And they were great. And I just really had a lot of respect for my guys' parents. Really had a lot.
Well, you mentioned Vince Lombardi earlier, and one of the things that he says is winning is a habit, so is losing. And my question is, in all these players that won NCAA championships, you had many Grand Slams professionally. Is there a secret to that winning? Is it, I'm just curious if you saw a pattern amongst these kids that those that were able to persevere, win those singles titles and those doubles titles. What was the secret sauce to that winning formula?
That's a really big question because everyone's so different individually. And I would have to say that maybe the best competitor I ever had was John McEnroe. He had his very distinct style. I couldn't coach his style. The best thing I ever did was basically leave him alone, so I didn't understand how he was hitting the ball. Little things like firming up in your volley a little bit and keep getting the net, because ironically, he would prefer to stay in the backcourt when he first came to Stanford. But he had a great certain volley and just getting up the net a little more. But he had an innate need to have to win, I think. And I don't know why. His parents didn't really play tennis. They sent him to a local club to learn to play. The tennis academy was down the street from where he was. It's because of a recreational activity. He was really a soccer player in high school most of the time. And he's very different, say, than the Bryan twins or some of the other players I've had. Everyone's different, and some people you can sense that drive, that must-win personality. And other people you can't. They just win very quietly. I wish I knew the magic formula to that. I don't know. I think maybe just treating them individually. And my job really, I had a style of, I really believed in putting pressure on your opponent. First strike tennis, making them react to what you do rather than sitting back and just rallying until someone misses the ball. In essence, like much of tennis today is being played from the backcourt. I want them to force the action. I want them to get to the net and make something happen. And that's hard to do if you're 14 years old and 4 feet tall, 4 feet 5 inches tall. But you can still be learning the technique of net play, the volley, moving into your volley, the overhead, the mixing of the two, and the fundamentals of the net game. So that when your growth catches up with you and you get to college, there was nobody on my team that didn't leave Stanford knowing that I had full confidence they could serve the ball anytime I wanted them to do it. If they didn't do it every point, that was my job. So from a teaching standpoint, my style of play that I coach is really important. And in tennis, you have an advantage over almost any other sport in college tennis. I can talk to the kids anytime they're playing a match, during the match, as long as I don't interrupt play and don't distract the opponent aside like an intentional distraction. And so as I got more confident in what I was doing and I saw what I was teaching was working, I was not at all reticent to say, serve the ball here, pick it up here, serve out wide the forehand and come in for the line, whatever, come in off the turn, stand in a little closer, move over a little bit. They probably hated it. I know they did. They hated me, some of them telling them what to do all the time. But then it took about a year and a half. If I were a better coach, it would have been less time. But about a year and a half, I'd start to say something, and they'd be doing it before I could say it. It was beautiful to watch that evolution. And when I tell them to do something in the heat of a big match, I've worked with them in practice. I know what they can do. But it's human nature, if you haven't tried in competition, to do what you feel most natural and comfortable doing. But by being able to talk to them and to insist, to tell them what to do, if they want to play, to tell them what to do, then if it doesn't work, the onus is on me. And it's like it's a guy calling pitches from the dugout to the pitcher on the mound. Pitch it high and inside or low and outside, whatever, with a certain batter. Crowding, more jump balls, more speed, more fastballs. And you're not always right. But you have a philosophy and you stick with it. And fortunately, it worked more than it didn't. And so the guys would do it. And so it was really beautiful to watch this evolve. As I got more confident and saw it was working, it really helped. I think my players were confident in what I was telling them. And if you have success, we talked about a minute ago, with this guy and that guy and that guy, year after year, pretty soon they're going to think, I better listen because he knows what he's talking about. And a lot of times I was guessing against an opponent what might or might not work at that particular time in the match. But you don't take a call at third strike. You get to get the bat off the shoulder. And so I'd rather see that chance being taken and have a chance of it being wrong. There's a calculated risk always, but try it. If something's not working, you have to try something else. And my job is to teach them so they had different gears they could try.
That's really unique because junior tennis, they don't allow you to talk to them. Professionals, they don't allow them to talk to them. But in college, they do. Was there a certain philosophy why that was happening, Dick? I'm just curious.
I don't know how it got started, but ever since I was coaching, it was the case. And coaches, a lot of coaches didn't do it very much, especially when I started. But I found it really helpful in giving the kid, taking the pressure off him to make a decision. And getting out of his comfort zone, because I really felt it would work. I really felt if he could do it, it would work against his opponent, as the case might be. So I think it was a dramatic correlation to my success was that I could talk to them. And I think they got better because of it. I think that's one reason they went out in the coach tour. They could do more things. And out of college, and I don't think if they hadn't had those couple of years, 3 or 4 years, they would have been as confident to do some of those things.
Gosh, I wonder how many more Grand Slams John McEnroe would have won if you were able to talk to him professionally. I'm not kidding. Like, wow. I
didn't say very much to him in college. He was always ahead of me.
Is that right? I'll be darned. Truly a savant. You're doing some really cool work when it comes to, and I'd say that, but with education with concussions. Can you tell me more about what you're working on currently?
Well, the day after I left, I coached 38 years, and I stayed on another 14 years as director of tennis. And that gave me a chance in that position to do things I didn't have time to do when I was coaching. We were able to endow the entire men's program from the director of tennis, my position salary, to the head coaching salary, to assistant coaching salary, through all of our scholarships, which are about $80,000 a year now at Stanford, endowing all of our operating budget, which is, we don't have a big operating budget. It's in line with other sports of our level, so to speak, at Stanford. and build up a good maintenance and repair environment as well. So I'm really proud of that, and they gave me time to finish that off. We had started on it, but they gave me time to finish that off. We had a lot of things with streaming and things. I didn't want to host a national championship while I was coaching because I was distracted, but I wanted to, when we did host one, to make it better than anyone had ever done before. We did some things that were just amazing, the two championships we hosted. And so I was able to do a lot of things in those 14 years that really were appealing to me. I have a creative piece of me that wants to do something that's different and never been done and do it better. And I got a lot of satisfaction when coaching, but then I had 14 years I could do it full time, and that was great. But it was time to retire. I'd been there 52 years. Stanford was longest ever employee in the athletic department. And so I retired after the first paycheck in January on a Friday. And then on Monday, I moved into offices in downtown Palo Alto for home of a nonprofit. And it was one that had spent 7 years bringing HIV education to 82 countries throughout the world. And they had just finished that about a year earlier, and we're starting to work on concussion education. And I do something in this country for global health. And concussions were, 4 or 5 years ago, gigantic in the news, and still are, and a big problem. So not only did I now have a new office space that I could use for whatever, because when you retire from coaching, you don't get one at Stanford. No matter how long you've been there, you don't get an office or a desk. You're out. So I had an office, but I really got into this concussion bit, and I loved it. And basically, what we do is produce education. Our first product was a 12-minute video called Crash Course Football. Every state in the country has some kind of concussion education requirement, but it's very vague in terms of what it is and who it applies to: the coach, the athlete, the parents, youth players like Top Warner football, Little League, or just the high school players. It changes all over. And most of that comes from the CDC, and it's really a PDF or a poster, or someone will come in, they want a trainer to talk to them about concussion or something like that. But it's kind of an in one ear and out the other. It's not very compelling. So we took our first one was football, because that is one of the larger causes of concussion, and we made a video called Crash Course Football, and we did a trial run with some high school kids in Northern California. Went back to Georgia. We have a great semi-pro league, and these guys are all actors and Blindside, things like that. A lot of acting scenes, big football movies, things like that. And so they put on the pads, and we had a game, and we stayed. We had about 7 players, and one of those, a player gets concussed, gets hit really hard, and then he has a decision to make in this interactive video, and he can press stay in the game or take a knee, go out. And he doesn't know he has a concussion. He just can't see quite right, and so on. So you click on the thing, and then the story forks a little bit. And Bryce Love, a Heisman Trophy runner up at Stanford, was our lead narrator. So we have the game, getting the kids into it. The stands are packed. The cheerleaders, the stuff at the end of the field, to the tunnel. We were all up there. We had it beautifully filmed. And then a couple minutes in the film, you get the concussion, and then you get a little bit of a lesson. They don't want to hear a doctor talking to them. These kids don't. So Bryce Love was the guy, and some of his teammates, and brought out most of the things that are symptoms when you might have a concussion, and how important it is not to hurt your team or yourself by staying in the game, because you can't see right, your balance bad. Better chance you get hurt again. If you get hurt again, the same contest, you're really going to be hurt badly. Not always necessarily just from a concussion. And it's a great message, and it was adopted almost immediately by almost all of these football, Pop Warner, American football, USA football, and it's now used certification for coaches and athletes. USA football, which governs all of these football primarily. USOC Olympic Committee has asked to do one now for all sports, multi-sport version. It won't be a football team, it'll be cameos of about 30 different sports using Olympic type footage with our Olympic partners. Our first Olympic partnership was with synchronized swimming, believe it or not, USA Synchro. And it's amazing what sports you wouldn't think of have concussion problems. Cheerleading is one of the biggest one of all. Mm-hmm. High school soccer, girls soccer has almost the same amount of concussions as high school football. So it's way, way beyond football. Bicycling, recreation, is the biggest cause of infections in the country, world. And so it's a big problem. 40 million youth playing competitive sports, organized sport in the country each year. A lot of infections amongst those kids, and they're not going to read a PDF. They just say they read it or whatever. I mean, it's just. So our job is to make it compelling. So they listen to it, they watch it, they get something out of it. Coaches can get certified by watching it themselves. It's not having to read something. It moves fast. It's quick. The lessons are all there, and so that's what we've been doing.
Well, I think it's awesome because we need to protect those kids. We want our next generation to be healthy, and the long-term effects obviously are be a great concern. I have to ask this question so I don't forget, because 52 years working at one place, that truly, you don't
never
hear that.
Caught. They never caught me.
What would be your advice to someone, because that loyalty, that keeping things interesting at the same location? I mean, obviously, Stanford.
I didn't work. That's a misnomer. I didn't have a job. I just I had a hobby, and to me, every day was different. And it was nice. I really respect Stanford because they gave, in those days, the coaches a lot of flexibility to do their own thing. I never felt I had someone looking over my back. They say, well, if I go proposal to do something, they say, well, we can't do that, but if you can raise the money for it, you can do it. So I became a fundraiser. We built, in those days, 25, it took about a 5-year period, but we built a tennis stadium, and it was in old money. It was about over $20 million. We raised every penny. We didn't get a penny from the university or from the athletic department. We raised every penny ourselves. And I'm really, really proud of that. But that kept me busy. There was always some kind of a project. I really felt, after I'd been around about 10 years, my coach was there 16 years. I thought he'd been at Stanford forever. As a little kid, I remember watching the tournaments that I would go play at. And Stanford was there after I get out of Stanford for a few years. And I'm thinking, wow, an old guy. So I really felt it was important that I showed that I was staying relevant. And my philosophy was every 4 or 5 years, I had to do something that had never been done before and do it better than it ever had been done or could be done. And so that always got me thinking about what to do. Whether it be hosting a Junior Davis Cup at a level that had never been done, whether it be putting on a pro event. We had a big pro event for the Women Banquet West Championship for 22 years. 2 big events for seniors. We worked a lot with underserved kids. We did a lot of different things that gave my life a lot of variety. So a day was never boring. And the coaching was, of course, the frosting on the cake, but that was only part of my day.
Well, like I said earlier, you've influenced so many people, including my family, my wife, my son. So much of the tennis community is shaped because of you. I want to give you just last anything you'd like to share with the audience. I didn't ask you that. You're like, gosh darn it, JM, you should have asked this. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with?
I think, as with my players, I think there's a time to work and there's a time to play. And when you walk into that gate of the tennis court, you're walking into a sacred place. You're walking into my living room. And when you're there, I want you treating me like my living room. I don't want you to bang a ball against the wall. I don't want you swearing on it. I want you spitting on the floor. I want you to treat it like a very special place, because it is a special place. And when you come in here, everything else is on the outside. These walls sit close to you. And you are here and use your chance now to get out of what you're doing and all the troubles you have and focus on just one thing. But in the process of doing this and everything else that you have demanded in your lifetime, you have to take time to have fun and enjoy it. And if you can't make light of yourself, first of all, by laughing at yourself, and secondly, at your mistakes and screw-ups and so on, but look for ways to have harmless fun. We pushed the envelope a little bit, but we had a blast, and I just really think that was something my guys really enjoyed, and I think it helped kept them fresh. We had 3 different things that just were were really fun for them.
Well, I again, I just want to thank you for the time today, for everything you've done for the tennis community and Stanford in general. I mean, you've shaped so many lives, and it's that influence is truly remarkable. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, good luck with all, and tell your beautiful bride, give her a big hug for me. She's one of my all-time favorites. And good luck with your son and all he's doing in the future. And tell me, just take time to smell the roses a little bit. It's so important as we go on, and pretty soon it's over, and so enjoy it while you can. And in the meantime, just keep yourself well directed with where that journey is taking you, and enjoy it as you go.
I appreciate it so much, Dick. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Truly a blessing to have Dick on today. Until next time, continue to transcend in life. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to transcendinlifepodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Transcend in Life podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson, taking you from fear to freedom.